Good space time, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Citizen Web3 podcast, your source for educational insights into the Web3 universe and your connection hub to discovering those that contribute to building the decentralized world. Today, we are joined by Mohammed Patla from Secure Secrets. We discuss overcoming fear, privacy, and giving away your data. We touch upon challenges, what do projects eat, and distinguishing between good versus bad. Finally, we talk about building towards sustainability, self-hosting, and the future. If you enjoy our podcast, please share this episode to your favorite social platform and help us spread Web3 values across the universe.
I lean towards it being more of private citizens and public government because I think that gives you a far more far more level of sophistication of what a government is. It's kind of hard to lose focus on like the individuality of a person because you kind of give away some of your data for the benefits you could get. People say that if AWS goes down, Solana goes down. The fundamental truth about Web3 is we don't want to trust anyone. We want to build a trustless system.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the Citizen Web3 podcast. Today, I have Mohammed from Secure Secrets with me. Mohammed, hi. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, nice to be here. And it's all my pleasure to really be on the Citizen Web3 contest. So I'm excited as well and happy to talk today.
Nice, man. So let me do the traditional thing before I'm going to bombard you with questions. Can I please ask you for the listeners and for myself to introduce yourself? Tell us everything you want us to know about you. What do you do? How did you get into Web3? Maybe what you're working on right now.
Yeah, no, I think Web3 has, I think, been a journey, especially since the space is pretty new. So I myself really got introduced to this space in 2017, more so on the trading investment side, just like everybody else. And eventually, because I have a tech background myself, I was like more interested towards what the technology under the hood built. It was not just about the money at that point. And once I got started getting involved, I saw how distributed technologies work, how there's lack in some areas, even in the Web3 space. I think I was more attuned to like different problems and effects in the space. And I think around 2018, 2019, I really focused a lot more in privacy in the Web3 space. And I think that was my foothold into, hey, I want to like build something, do something in the space. And I stumbled into Enigma at that point, now known as Secret Network. So I've really got my grassroots roots really into project development, and different types of support in the Web3 space, really. Call it infrastructure, or even development related. Also, in some aspect to Secret Network. And I think that's where my journey began, as a user slash as a entrepreneur. So I think I started to really focus a lot more into how do I build privacy toolings, how do I bring privacy focused projects on there. And around 2019, I bootstrapped Secure Secrets, which is our validator infrastructure, first on Secret Network. So we were first home on Secret Network, and then we expanded to other Cosmos networks as well. We support about 10 networks as of now, and we're looking to grow, but we do it more strategically, because post Secure Secrets, really, I think one of the things I did was meet Carter, onboarded him. We kind of like partnered on making sure Secure Secrets was a success. But then we also had another idea, and we were like, we don't just want to provide infrastructure in Web3, and we want to do more than that. And we bootstrap Shade Protocol at that point, which is one of the first privacy preserving dexes in the Cosmos. Based on Secret Network, we have our own first privacy preserving stablecoin, Silk, based on a basket of global currencies, which is like a more of a flat coin design than a stable coin design, you could say. So it's all inflationary resistant. So yeah, so we built that out. It's been live since like the last 2 years at this point, and we focus more both infrastructure is tuned towards shade protocol. So like we focus to make sure that we support infrastructure in the privacy spaces when possible, how possible, or partners that want to work with privacy in aspect in the future, or towards like some level in capacity with us to provide users that type of service. So we are advocates of privacy, believer privacy, and myself am. And so yeah, that gives you hopefully a little bit of a journey of myself in the Web3 space, myself, how I got in. But after that, brief overview, have like a tech background myself, worked in IoT, AI before I got into Web3. I've been like I think I've been like in the tech space for close to like 5 years, 6 years, and even before, like I really got into Web3, but more so from like university, school programs, all of that stuff. So yeah, it's been a fun journey in tech, especially Web3 being small and the whole global tech industry itself.
There's one thing I love about crypto entrepreneurs. I'm myself a crypto entrepreneur, and I think I can say that we have a short introduction of ourselves prepared already. When I have guests who are not from the crypto world, they really get lost when I ask that question. They're like, me, what do I do? I don't know. And then they go, and then you have the crypto guys. They're like, I know what I'm doing. I love it, man. This is we have been told by this industry to be quick and efficient.
Yep.
Man, so just for the listeners, guys, whoever's listening, if you want to check out first small 1 second of advertising, there is an episode with Carter. Go on our podcast, type in search. There is also, by the way, an episode with Tor, one of the founders of the Secret Network from about 4 years ago. So if you want to get more context on this, guys, what Mohammed is talking about, the networks, please go check them out. Sorry, Mohammed, back to you. Man, privacy is something that, to me personally, and it's a big thing for me. And I consider myself to be privacy obsessed, even though I host a podcast, but still I am. And I'm curious, why to you personally privacy is important. Why did you focus on privacy? I mean, you mentioned AI, you mentioned IoT. Not that they contradictory, but still, why did you select privacy as your focus, if I understood you correctly?
Yeah, so I think one of the things in the internet era is really where we kind of go in and we lose data on a daily basis. We don't realize this. We've seen a lot of like cases, big cases with Facebook, Meta, all of these, where they're talking about like data being lost and used for their benefit, right? Like, and any institution is going to do that with your data. Be it's like the data world we live in, kind of thing, right? So in such a big world, it's kind of hard to like lose focus on like the individuality of a person, because like you kind of like give away some of your data for the benefits you're going to get. Basically, it's a tradable world. It's like you're giving a data for a service, tool, something or the other out there. But like that shouldn't always be the case, and that's where I kind of come in. It's like it's not like we want to share our bank account details with anybody. It's not like we want to share our address with just everybody in the world and announce it and put it on our public space. Hey, this is the exact location I live in, just for anyone to ever look at, right? Some people don't care about it as much, other people care about it in different ways, so it's like a personal thing as well. I think it depends on what people think privacy is entitled to. Some people it's just your address, some people it's your bank account, to other people it may be something as simple as your personal history, your dating profile, your orientation, who knows, right? And that's where I think that there are things people do consider that they want to share with some people but not with others. And I think that's very important human thing that in the digital world kind of gets lost. And we've seen it happen with big cases, but like how do we bring it to new and emerging technologies? And Web3 is an emerging technology. I see the future of that. I see it being in our day-to-day lives without even some people knowing under the hood they're using Web3 or blockchain technology as a whole. And so privacy being built into the fundamental layer is very important, so that we give people the choice that, hey, you can share some data and leave some out if you don't feel safe about it, if you don't want to share about it, or if you don't want to, like, just personally not showcase that data, especially in a Web3 world where distributed data is crazy. It's like we're sharing all of our data to different people, unknown people. You don't know how they're going to use it, how they would want to use it, or what they would do with it. So I think that's where I think personally, I want to build technologies where, in the future generation can use it in a safe and, equitable manner, in my opinion.
Do you think that one of them, well, I mean, everybody, I guess a lot of people would agree that education or lack of it is an issue in privacy. But do you think that, particularly if we were, to look at some of the issues with privacy and how they arise and how they became today, there is one interesting opinion that I heard from one of my guests, and it was about semantics. And he pointed out that, today, for almost everybody, financial privacy or somebody looking outside your window, what you're doing in your bedroom is also about privacy. And it's a problem. And it's like, and I really kind of agree with that opinion. And I want to know what you think. Do you think that we should try to strive towards, not introduce, but strive towards introducing and helping people educate, or not educate, maybe that's a bit of a loud word, but to share this knowledge that privacy can be different, and different types of privacy require different, working with it, if so to speak.
Yeah, Nick, I think there is a valid point there. I think even in terms of education, in terms of the realm of possibility, yes, there is definitely that education for privacy out there that users should be focused towards. Really, when you think about the education context, think about it this way, right? Like, when we learn and train kids or the younger generation, it's really being a human. How do you interact with people? You should be careful of, like, we train kids to be like, hey, don't talk to strangers, don't share with them things, like there's a reason for that, and that's education, technically speaking, right? You're teaching your kids to do something. But now we have this digital world and realm where anyone can access it. We call it the internet, and Web3 is part of that, right? And so we kind of be like, okay, we don't want to, like, just give our kids full access to that. There is problems there as well, that there's bad actors in there as well, and we know it firsthand. So there's that level that, we need to educate people. Hey, this is things you should be doing, this is things you shouldn't be doing, because there is, like, problems, and there's going to be repercussions from, like, things you would access or do on the internet, or Web3 in this case, which is what we're talking about, but, like, internet as a whole. And I think, that education of that matter is important, like, that the older generation who understand this technology would come in and be like, hey guys, look at this is the option you have. You either go to this site that's going to give up all of your data, you go to this other side, and that protects some of your data, so they're trustworthy in this aspect. And how do you figure out the difference between those two is critical. But, like, no one's going to know that out of the box. Even as adults, you had to go and learn the difference between those two, and to get there. And this is just a simple example I'm trying to showcase, but, like, there is some level of education learning you have to do to distinguish between the good and the bad things, right? So I think that education is going to be there, and it matters for privacy as well, where it's going to be an effective thing where you have to learn to understand those things. But yeah, like, one step at a time. We need to have the toolings available and the options available first, and then slowly showcase that there is an alternative option where you're not sacrificing anything, you're not changing anything, you get the exact same thing you would want from the other parties, but, like, with data privacy.
I mean, as a validator, and not only a validator, but I've been in this industry, as long as you, and it's not a point of, hey, I've also been here long enough. It's more of a point of, I've also seen a lot of privacy related for the last, like, 10 years. I don't know what the right word is, let's say atrocities, maybe it's a bit of a loud word, but I'm going to call it like that again because it's important to me. And what I noticed and is that um it seems people are scared, man. It seems that people are scared, like wallets get shut down. You have people going to court. I mean, talking about many 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 different cases. And I had guests cancel because they were afraid to talk about their cases, like to the extent of, I mean, how are you not afraid? For example, are you not afraid on working in a related to a privacy project, especially? Like, I don't know where you're located, my friend, but it's everywhere today. It's a bit scary. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think one thing people kind of associate is like when it comes to privacy is like people always think people have something to hide and that's why you need privacy. And then there is a problem, and then is like there is something nefarious that's going on. Basically, that's what it comes down to, really, because the people who really want privacy on scale sometimes are also drug cartels and money launderers and all of these people who want to do theft behind the scenes. And that's where I think a problem comes around to be, where the governments and regularity bodies don't like it, right? Don't like it because like there's no way for them to get past some certain barriers, or they have to do extra work to get past those barriers, to really crack down on those bad actors in the system. Think that's where the biggest problem comes and fear comes from people, is that when they associate with those type of people out there, and then it's a problem as a whole in the privacy space. I think so. Anyone who's building technologies, not just in Web3, face these problems. Reason I am not like afraid to talk about it is simple. Like I think I and Carter both have been public about the technology we're building. We don't need to hide behind the scenes to like build privacy technology. We should be as open and transparent in terms of what we are building and how we are building it, to showcase to users that there is this option available, and you can use it. And we are open to work with regularity bodies and different types of good actors in the system, to make sure that the system isn't like used by nefarious people as well at the same time. And if they are, how do we make stop them from doing so? So I am not an advocate of like using privacy technology for bad things. It's really so that the regular user has this option that hey, I don't want to be sharing all of my data just because I want to use this service. I want to have the choice to, okay, share some of this data, or to whom I deem fit this data. And then that's where I try to draw the line, is that that's what's more important to build towards, rather than the fact that we should have the all encompassing privacy for everyone, everything, that's not going to fit. It's really more for use case, tune it to use cases. And that's where shade protocol idea really comes from. It's like there in finance, we need that level of like privacy, and how do we build that and around that. And that's what we built over the last like 2.5 years. So yeah, to your question, really, I'm not afraid to talk about it, but I would be lying if I said that there is no. I'm not afraid that there could be some repercussions out there, from good actors, and in my opinion. But like how do I work with them is also another problem that we need to figure out in this space.
One, no, maybe not last, but one short question before we move at least to a different topic. In your opinion, should it be private government and public citizens, or private citizens and a public government?
um, I think that's a very good question, and a deep question in my opinion. But I lean towards it being more of private citizens and public government, because I think that gives you a far more far more level of sophistication of what a government is. It's just the people at the end of the day. It's just a united front of people, right? So yes, that is the way I lean towards. I do understand that all of the government can never be fully transparent. It's not possible for, national interest or whatever you would call it really. And that's okay as long as there's a public body that is left to be accountable to the people. And I think that's where democracy comes from.
I would go even more extreme than you. I'm just curious, like about you, but I would definitely agree with you. I would say that the government shouldn't exist, but it's a different story. Man, how do you like? Well, this is a stupid question for a crypto podcast, but how do you identify now in terms of what you do? Because you have a rich background. You're a DevOps, you're a founder, you're a validator. Like, how do you see yourself? What do you look at when you look at yourself? What's your goal, your personal goal of Mohammed? Is it more to focus on the validator and grow? Is it more to develop privacy technology from what I'm hearing now? Is it to go and innovate more? Like, I don't know. I think you understood. Sorry.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, there's like so many options out there, right? And I have focuses in different mixed spaces, but like technology wise, I really love DevOps, and that's where validator infrastructure come in, and that's where my love for dev roles really goes for. But in terms of product development and whatever products I want to ship to people and users, that's where shade protocol as a passion comes around. And so it's like a very mixed thing. But like what I usually do, and I think Carter as well, one of my partners, he knows this, is that focus a lot on the infrastructure side, even for shade protocol. So anything that's related to like making sure the uptime is set up, proper infrastructure to access it, because we do access Web3 technologies, right? Like web apps, DApps always access Web3 technology. So I manage the on rails there, or the rails to on chain. And so I focus a lot of my dev time in those areas and expertise where I really like to do so. That being said, like I've worked a bunch on the back end developments. I have a lot of experience there, because this combine well with DevOps really. So technology wise, my focus would be definitely engineering and scale for Web3 infrastructure related. How do I integrate on Rails? How do I onboard apps and users to the infrastructure really? So that's where my focus would be as a techie, you could say. And then, I think from a project perspective, I really like to take it back as a founder, as a co-founder. It's more so, how do I get users to use any of our technologies, be it like Web3 as a whole. There I have friends who don't use Web3, and I'm like, how do I get them onboarded? How do I get my parents onboarded? Those are always the concerns. And like, infrastructure, sure, but that's not gonna cut it to get them onboarded. They're just gonna be, oh, that's like a job you get to do and whatever. But like, how do I get them interested in technologies on a fundamental level? And that means that there's a lot of layers attached to it. Infrastructure is probably one of the lower layers, and maybe that's my interest, but like that's not the goal that drives us, right? The goal that drives us is to bring these users that I care about on technologies that I think are valuable to them, and that's where I think my goal and objective sits. And I want people to be privacy preserving, bringing on chain, financial security, bringing on chain, hopefully governance in the future. I'm not talking about like on chain governance as in Cosmos governance. I'm talking about on chain governance as in, how do you go and freaking vote for a government on chain? That'd be pretty cool. So those are things that really drive me in a passionate way to really build these technologies for end users. And I think that's always going to be my top one goal. And to do that, to achieve that, what do I need to do? And that may be infrastructure, DevOps, back-end development, or be it front-end development. I'll do any of that if I can get these technologies out there.
I must say, as someone who thinks of themselves, I'm talking about myself here. Like as a person who onboarded some people, like where I'm located at currently, I have a big group of friends, and I must say you're doing a very difficult job, because I have friends who are not from the Web3 world, and of course they're curious. Of course they see what I do, they see that I always talk about it, and um but I give up at the point of where people don't even want to look for a job online. They find it too difficult. I say to them, like, I have some people who I try to help, and we start from just working online, just doing something online, not necessarily. And I don't know how it is in your case, and that's, I guess, the question. How's your case of this has been? Because onboarding people to Web3, because in my case, it seems that people don't want to. They refuse to take responsibility of their actions. And I'm really sorry if any of my friends is listening to it right now, but I mean what I'm saying. So hi, but people refuse responsibility. They refuse the smallest, like, actions. So let alone talk about making a job out of that, going into DeFi, going into privacy, and so on. What's your experience with it like?
Yeah, no, it's challenging to undertake it for sure. But like, I've had friends who know about crypto and they invest in crypto, but they do it through centralized exchanges or something like. It's like, I don't want to custody stuff, like, and custody as a whole is a problem on chain. Honestly, in blockchain, it's like, really, do we want to have a wallet on a hot wallet, or even a ledger in this capacity where you have like the seed stored somewhere? It's like a complicated process, and it's like a user onboarding thing, which itself I feel is like not fun for new users. That's a responsibility. They're like, oh, if I go to the bank, at least I don't have to take that responsibility at all. Like, the bank takes responsibility. If the bank does something wrong, I can go and sue them for it, right? So there is this undertaking that the government is actually your backing. It's like, okay, if I can trust everybody here, but like, the fundamental truth about Web3 is we don't want to trust anyone. We want to build a trustless system. So I feel that this layer of onboarding, this last leg of users, is going to be close to impossible. I feel it's like they understand the technology. It doesn't mean they want to use it. So how do we make them use it? It's really like, don't get them to use it directly. It's really through tertiary means, in my opinion, that's going to really get on board them. Their banks or their toolings or the centralized exchanges under the hood use Web3. And that's what's going to happen. And that's where I think institutionalization of crypto is really happening. We talk a lot about institutionalization of the world right now in terms of, crypto adoption. So I think that's what's happening under the hood. It'll take time until all the institutions really, the good institutions really build those technologies out for users. But like, I think the last leg of users don't really, they need to understand the technology, but they don't really need to, access the technology. It'll be there available to them through their regular best, accessible tools. So that's my opinion of the last section of onboarding. Like, people don't care about, there's a lot more to life than just Web3. And like, sometimes I forget that myself because I'm in the space. But there's a lot more to life, and people have priorities. And like, maybe Web3 is not the topmost priority. It's a technology to them, right? Like, it's okay, it's cool, fun, all of that, maybe investment paradigm, all of that stuff. But not really a means of life to them. And I can live with that. I just need to make sure that you're still using it under the hood. That's all I care about. So, as long as your banking system, as long as your systems under the hood are like, okay, you have Web3, you're good, you're fine, you're sorted.
Wait, there is another life apart from Web3? Shit, man. Wait, damn it. That's what people meant. No, I'm joking, of course. But no, but it's true. But I agree with every word you say. And I don't think that the last, I mean, let's be honest, how many people today know how to use the CLI or Bash or whatever, like, or how to open I mean, let's go easier. How many people today know that you can look at the page source code by clicking the right button, but people know how to use the internet, but they don't know how to use that, and they don't want to, and I don't think they need to. So I kind of agree with you there. But I know, by the way, that you like you say, you build different tools, and sorry, I'm gonna scrub that last question and I will come back to that, but I want to ask one thing in particularly. As a founder or as a validator or as doesn't matter, as you, what has been until today, apart from onboarding people, of course, the biggest challenge in terms of, you had quite a journey. I mean, you said 2017, so we're talking 7 going 8 years now, close to. And yeah, I mean, onboarding is one of them, but can you talk a little bit about more the challenges that you faced in that time?
Yeah, so there's I think a lot of challenges across the way, both personal and professional, in my opinion. Like I'll focus a lot more on the professional ones, I think so, because that gives more context about uh, what as a technology, as like a undertaking, as a company, as a founder, have affected this. So while I was in Web3, I've actually done another startup as well before, and it was more so in the marketplace space. So really like bringing P2P marketplace to barbers and hairdressers, and that was our initial startup idea, which I did with a friend back in 2018 almost. And then I was like, um, it was short, and it was something I took a lot of learning from to really apply in my Web3 space. So few things you gotta figure out, like user onboarding is top one. So we face that in Web3. It's like definitely there, and those are problems that are gonna exist probably lifelong for any founder and that wants to build a product out there. But outside of that, there's a lot of other challenges that people think that may work or may not work. But there's financials you have to think about as well, right? We talk about Web3 and we talk about like token creation and all of this stuff, but money doesn't come out of thin air. We need to figure out a way to make it sustainable. And sustainable means people are working on projects, using those projects, and there's revenue generated when people do that. And that's what matters. So financials are important. And I think that's one of the stumbling blocks that any entrepreneur has to face. Yes, your project is good, product is good. I faced that multiple times. It's like, how do we sell this product to users? So that's like one of the aspects and challenges I think is important when you're doing like this journey. It doesn't have to be in Web3. Honestly, it has been any space as an entrepreneur that matters. Um, Another challenge I think is team building. I think that's like something I feel that is important. I think every entrepreneur slash team or founders, co-founder, it doesn't matter who it is, but like you need to have a team to really build towards a vision, towards a product. I will be super, but I'm pretty happy because like I think our team is like being super productive in terms of building towards shade protocol. We've been grinding day after day. Even in the bear market, it's been brutal. All the pay cuts and all of the salary grants, bonuses, none of that, all of that. We're still grinding towards a goal and objective. And I think I'm very very honored to like be working with the team I have, honestly. So those are things that matter. So team building is very important because the group of people you work with towards a shared goal is important. As an entrepreneur, your objective shouldn't be onboarding the best talent, although that would be the most most best thing to do. But like it's also the people who will stick with you during the downturns, because like everything goes up and down in the markets, right? And there's nothing we can do about it. And so that's one of the other stumbling blocks in my opinion. Team building is important, and if you have a good team, then you have like a very good army to march towards, basically. And this is, I think, the two biggest stumbling blocks in my opinion in terms of um, building towards in any form. And I think those are challenges accompanying those as well, right? You can be building towards multiple objective and goals, and that becomes like kind of like cloudy. And it's really about finding the focus, finding the vision. I'll take Carter's note here. He's very much about like, it's not about the time you spend, it's about how much focus you dedicate towards a project, a thing, or idea, or whatever it is. And I think that's something I resonate now with him really much. It's like, because like we focus on something, we get there. And I think those are few things that we've learned over time. And I think these are some of the challenges faced, not all of them. There's definitely more. And if we list down and look, at least I look back on my journey, So like, there have been successful, ideas and projects, and there'll be failures as well. And your failures are important to learn from, right? You take back learnings and you apply them again. And I think that's very important as well. So those are things that I tell everybody, like, all new entrepreneurs as a whole. How do you, like, to do these challenges? It's important, and you can apply it in the Web3 space as well. I don't think the Web3 space, like, kind of like leaves it. You need to figure out all of these problems there as well. So yeah, like, hopefully that answers your questions about some of the challenges there.
Of course. It reminds me what you said about focus about Einstein a little bit. I think it was him or his house worker who was famously looking after him, like cooking him food, and not looking after him as in he was bad, but he said that I'm not really that smart. I'm just very focused. And his housemaid, she used to say that he would forget to eat, forget to wash for days, and he would sit in and solve. And it was the focus that he was just like, I need to solve this. I need to get there, and it goes along. But I want to actually ask you about the revenue, because you mentioned, not I have to say it's not a big topic for the podcast. It's not, but it is an interesting topic because you know I think for somebody who has been like yourself through more than one bear market in terms of crypto, in terms of Web3 at least, and you understand developers need to eat, and not just developers, the projects need to eat. um there is an opinion, because we mentioned adoption, and we mentioned that it's going to be the last set of users. I'm going to try and put it all together now. So there is an opinion that the next cycle, the next bear cycle, which will start in however long it will start, let's say a couple of years, 1 year, doesn't matter, will be a very lengthy, big bear cycle. It will not be a 4-year cycle. It will be an adoption cycle. People say that during adoption, prices cannot go up. It doesn't make sense. If things get unadopted, things need to be more adopted by other people. So if something is growing out of the blue, nobody can afford it. So I know it's not a question once again, and I'm sorry for that, but I'm curious what you think about it. I'm curious, do you think, I mean, what you said about, the last wave of users not really caring about what they're using, and, talking about revenue and talking about all of those things, do you think that that's possible, that crypto will soon reach its pricing peaks and then adoption will follow, and that will be a big bear market in terms of pricing, but not in terms of technology, like it was for the internet, for example?
Yeah, yeah, that's a challenging question. I think no one can predict the future. Like, we talk about the bull and bear markets of the last four cycle, but like, in my opinion, if you really look at it, like, um, crypto as a whole, like the last first three cycles were just like baby cycles. Like, we're talking about $1 billion, and like, maybe like one buyer out there, like, could buy that out. Like, there are multi-billionaires out there right now, right? And they could buy that whole cycle out, and it wouldn't matter really. So the first three cycles, I feel people always look back and like, oh, the bear bull cycle works. Honestly, in some aspect, even I've believed it at this point. It's like, yeah, they do work because there's some resonance with it, right? And then I think that resonance fills the market as well. It's like, oh, this is a bull market, so like, prices are going to go up. If it's a bear market, the prices are going to go down. And so that mentality is driving the market itself. And then, if the mentality is said that, the next bear or bull cycle is going to be super long bear then a bull, like, kind of thing, it's going to be that way because the market already decided that's what it's going to be like. So there isn't much really we can do about it. I also think about there's a lot of macroeconomic factors. The world isn't as stable as it looks like. There are problems there, and there is, like, things that will affect, and maybe those are problems that would come into, market volatility, and that matters. And I wouldn't predict, like, there'll be long bear market, or if we are in a bull market. Honestly, I still doubt myself sometimes. It's like the prices are going up and all of that is fun, but like, when we compare to the last bull cycle, people were truly excited about getting into projects. That's what I saw. And maybe we're not there yet. Maybe this bull cycle is still the beginning. I don't know. So there's, like, this, differences. Maybe it's differences of different cycles, all of that stuff added up. Or maybe I'm just looking too much into it, right? Like, it's like, Are we, building towards sustainability? Yes, that is important. I think so. Like, anything, and then I think revenue comes right into that. So I think even if there is a long-term bear market, there is products that can come out that are sustainable. It's really about driving that initial adoption and, growing. If you really think about the internet cycle as well, it's not like when the internet cycle was in the low key, there wasn't any projects or toolings coming out. Sure, they were smaller, maybe not as aware as like by the public user, but like, those companies have been running for a while before they got their boom cycle. How are they running? There was revenue generation. Clearly, there was someone paying them for their services, and that's what matters, right? Like, I think crypto is, I believe, already is going through that phase where, it's not really just now, whose token just launched and is making the $1 billion. It's really about the projects that are like going to build towards sustainability and can survive multiple cycles. In all transparency, Shade Protocol has suffered a lot as well. We've learned our lessons, and these are a few of the takings we have. It's like, yes, revenue generation is important, sustainability is important, and we need to figure out a pathway. It doesn't matter which bear cycle comes next. We need to be ready for it. Our users is what really matters to us.
I think it's a very important point what you said there. For any founder to understand that, um, not for your own sake. It doesn't matter if you are the only investor and you have $10 million to feed the project for the next 10 years. It's your responsibility, I believe, to for for who you're building it. Unless you're building it for yourself and it's really you're the one user, then do whatever the hell you want, I guess. But if you have at least that 1 2 users who are not your friends and not your family, I assume that it should be your responsibility to think about how to sustain, whether it's producing revenue for that land as last person, but at least it has to be sustainable. I definitely can't more than agree with it, because I've seen so many cases, in crypto the last 10, 12 even years where projects that are one day feeling like they are on top of the mountain, on top of the hill, just roll down, and it happens. It happens in day. I mean, Terra, right? I mean, here's one example, right? Or FTX, or many other. Of course, those are bad examples, but yeah. Man, I want to ask you actually something about your past experience. A quick question, because it's an example actually of what we're talking about. Now, I don't know. I mean, today the internet, we are like we talk about privacy, but the internet is a very informative thing. So it's very easy to find information online about a person. And it mentions that you worked for Iris Network. Is that correct? So I think it's actually one example of a project. And once again, we spoke with Iris Network. They were one of the first guests on the show, man. Like, it was like almost 5 years ago, and it was an interesting project that was quite promising. The founder of the project, I remember her being having such effect on me. She was a remarkable lady, is a remarkable lady, I hope, and nothing is wrong with her, I guess. But what happened to the project? I mean, it's not like I'm asking you, but do you think it's revenue related? Do you think it's all involved there?
Yeah, so you're probably confusing the Iris network with the Web3 one. So this is not a Web3 Iris network I work for.
Okay. I'm
So
sorry, man. I'm
yeah, no,
sorry.
don't worry. These names are the same things, but they are more into AI. And I worked there more like an intern at that point in time. So when I was there, they're still around actually. I know the founder, and but they're Canadian based, so they're here more local. I don't think they have worked with some US government grants and stuff. But anyways, I think the Iris network you're talking about, I know of them actually because I know I was excited about what they were building. I believe they were like the from one my understanding when the Cosmos uptick happened in 2021. At that point, they were known as the Chinese Cosmos hub for whatever
Yes.
reason,
Yes. Correct.
right?
Correct.
And I don't know if it was between the crypto crackdown in China or whatnot, but like I think it slowly died down.
Mm-hmm.
There was actually an exciting project that I was interested in myself called Uptick. I don't know if they're still around, but
Yes. 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 They are.
uh,
We're a validator there.
yeah. So they were initially based on Iris Network. I think they migrated to their network or whatnot.
Okay.
But yeah, they were the only ones that were really supporting Iris Network, as far as I understand. And then yeah, it kind of just died down. Like I feel like, see, this is the problem, right? Like in Cosmos we get all the sovereignty we need, but that means also the responsibility of the individual team to build their own sustainability, to build their own ideas to users, onboard their own users. Like Terra did a very good job, or I guess a bad job in managing it, but like at least in growing it they did a very good job. And we see that it's possible to do so. I think there's new projects that are doing that well, be it Celestia, Namada, or be it like any of the other upcoming networks, really. But like every project has its own sole responsibility. That's one of the reasons I think. So I remember trade protocol. We always like thought about launching our own chain, but like it's not really just about launching a sovereign chain. It's about like do we need to maintain it? Do we need that? Is the amount of users sustaining that? Like I understand why Uniswap wants to go to their own layer two, which makes sense. They have like a certain amount of users that use it, and Ethereum doesn't sustain that, and then they go into layer two. Makes sense, but do we need that for every chain in the cosmos? Yeah, that's a good question. I think the partial security set thing that came into Cosmos is really helpful, because now new projects don't have to worry about some of the, do I need to like launch a new token? You don't. You just launch a project first, make it sustainable, and then if you see demand and reason to do a token launch, do a token launch. If you don't need to, you don't need to. You're gonna get around it. Like there's many other alternatives, or you can do like a small allocation and just make it like so that security is just sustained by like the hub as much as you want, and just build on Neutron. Like you don't need to do anything else. So there's like so many other alternatives now than there were like in 2021. I think that was one of the reasons people took up the challenge. Hey, let's do this, let's do that, and then many projects died out. It's not just Aris. I believe there is like a lot of other projects that have died down. I know on Secret Network that has been the case. People raise so much money, and then boom, it's like after building the products, there are no users there, and we never thought about those problems. I know Shade Protocol faced like a bunch of those issues as well, and we're lucky to come out of it on the other side at this point. But like you know, those were things that everybody thought, oh, it's gonna be fun and money is gonna always infinitely keep flowing in, like from VCs and all that stuff. But that doesn't last long, right? I think we've all learned a lesson.
Absolutely. It's I think that's the problem is, at least for me. I don't know about you, but I mean personally, um unfortunately sometimes learning a lesson once doesn't help. It's like sometimes I feel like I'm stumbling on the same problem 10 times until I understand what to do, and even then sometimes I don't. But I have actually one last question for you before we're going to jump into the blitz about your validator, because I can carry on this topic easy, but I'm not gonna forgive myself if I don't ask at least something about your validator. So I'm sorry, but I will. So the question I have kind of quite a lot, but the question that I will ask is about AWS and self-hosting, because you mentioned privacy and we spoke a lot about that. And it's not that it's about privacy, but it's kind of like there is some logic in my question, I guess, at least in my head. So it mentions on your LinkedIn profile, that in one project, you worked and you managed to maximize the efficiency by using AWS. Now, what's your opinion, considering with everything we mentioned today on the podcast, about privacy, about revenues as well, on the other hand, and what's your take on validators and mining pools? That should they self-host? Should we? I mean, there is a trend, right? Somewhat there is a trend. That's a lie. There is somewhat of a trend in some protocols right now, to talk about that at least. Well, what do you think? What do you think? That's how it's gonna end.
Yeah, that's a good question. Coming from DevOps, like loving the cloud is what we do as part of the job, and I think that's I think a fundamental question of like what's really long term, you know sustainable. I feel like that's what comes down to. I'm talking about not sustainable in terms of infrastructure, right? Like AWS is great. I love it in many aspects. And hate it in some aspects, like it's just the way it is. Like, when you talk about infrastructure to host new servers, AWS, I can just go spin up a Terraform script and, like, launch in like 2 seconds if I really want. Like, AWS would provision everything for me, deploy everything for me, deploy from my code base if I want. And, there's automation that is crazy. And that's sometimes useful for uptime. And that's one of the reasons I use it. Think maintaining is far more easier. But then there is the other end of it where you have your own hardware, which I deal with as well. You, like, physically go and deploy it in co-location, maintain the cloud, all of that, building pieces, right? Like, it's basically AWS is providing a service for that. And it takes a whole job to do that second part as well. It's like there's multiple jobs that AWS is basically doing for you. And and the cost of it is basically obviously the dollar cost, and then there is the cost of like trust as well you have to give to them. So yeah, like, I think that it's more of a mixed use case. I think it's use case to use case. I still don't run validator services on AWS. I don't think that will happen unless there is a reason for it. Like, the reasons I can think of is, there's a server that I need that's not available anywhere else unless I buy it out, right? And I can't afford to buy that server because that's like new gen hardware that costs like $50,000, $60,000 to like build, where I can just go and rent it for like $1,000 at AWS, right? Like, so those are variable things that come into effect, and you can't help it. But like, I personally think that everybody should from validator services. And I think I've heard this a lot. I've spoken to Figment, I've spoken to a few of the validators. They all cycle between like bare metals and, like, cloud services. Cloud service is more for your internal infrastructure, website hosting. Oh, that's fine. But like, validated infrastructure should still live a bit on your, dedicated server. But again, this might be mixed, right? It's very use case to use case, like I mentioned. So yeah, like, your question is valid. And there's like a lot of like up there demand on, like, people say that if AWS goes down, Solana goes down, kind of thing, right? Like, and it's kind of crazy to think about it that way, but like, it's possible. And but like, AWS also has a lot of like threshold things they have in place that doesn't have make them happen. They have like internet cables running from cities to cities on their own that are provisioned by them, right? Yeah, as an individual, I'll never be able to get that level of, like, infrastructure in place. I don't have that much money to put or time to put to do that. So there's some level of trust that will come into place, and that's where you trust AWS or provide any other provider, basically, right? So I think in minimal amounts it's all right, but like, you need to decide what's like critical and non-critical, really, and decide on that basis.
I must say that self-hosting, especially if you have values like privacy values or Web3, values, is very expensive. It's very difficult and very, very expensive. And I think just to comment on your words a little bit, like, you talk about bare metal and cloud. I can tell you, after interviewing validators for 5 years and being a validator for longer than 5 years, actually, I can tell you that maybe the thing is, a lot of validators refer to bare metal as to servers they own, and it's not exactly like that. Like self-hosting, out of my experience, maybe 2%, maybe 2%, maybe.
It's pretty
And it's
expensive to self-host.
yeah,
It's not
yeah,
easy. Like, you need
yeah,
to do so much stuff to
yes,
self-host. Like,
yes,
I only have one server and it's not even in a collocation yet. Like, I'm still getting it
yes,
set up. But like, one physical server, you need to do all the infrastructure to make sure it's remotely hostable, and then you get an internet provider with a collocation, which is not, it's not under your control anyways, unless you go and buy an ISP out and buy a collocation server to self-host. It's not impossible, practically possible to do so. So yes, the bare metal, I agree. Like, some people terminology is different there, but yeah, it's not that we own all of the servers. It's not possible to do that unless we have a lot of money to throw around. And even if I did have that much money to throw around, was it sustainable? Like, why would I throw all that money at like bare metal servers when I can cycle them out? because this is a lifeline. Everything has a lifeline in technology. Even physical servers die out after a certain amount of time, be it like 5 years, 10 years maximum. They're gonna go out, because they get obsolete, and there's a price to that. And some people can maintain that as a service because they provide it as a service to other people. So that's why anyways, I get you, what you can where you're coming from, why validators would be doing that or confusing that, as a whole. So it's interesting though, for sure.
It's a huge topic that I love to discuss this topic, but yeah. Let me jump into a blitz to take us out to finish the conversation. This is going to be 3 quick questions, not related to crypto. They're a bit strange. I always warn guests about it. So here we go. So first one, give me either a movie or a book or a music that has positive influence on Mohammed throughout his life. Or at least a couple of last years. Doesn't have to be the whole of your life, of course. It can be something that you like now. Movie, book, song, or one.
Yeah, I think I'm more interested in the sci-fi space and fantasy realms.
Okay.
So I think a lot more into Star Trek. A lot into Witcher. Those are things
I'm
that.
wearing a Star Wars T-shirt, brother. So all good, Yay.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely, those are the realms. I think that's been something that has been carried since childhood as well. So it really the dreaming part, right? That's pretty exciting. It's like what the future could look like, and I think those are things I take inspiration from, for sure.
I can relate a lot. Okay, second one, give me one motivational thing that you can, of course, share with the public that keeps Muhammad, waking up every day, getting out of bed, focusing on privacy, carrying on building, thinking about sustainability, something motivational for you subjectively that helps you to do and keep on going every day.
Yeah, I think in the more recent years, it's mostly been how do I get users into using blockchain technology, and that's what has been like keeping me up at night. Privacy being one of it, sure, but like how do I get this technology at the hands of every user in the world? And we're coming to it. We're not there yet, but like building towards is like the hustle over the last like probably good 4 years at this point in time since I've been building. So, yeah, that's definitely top one thing in recent trends.
Nice.
That keeps you up
Nice.
at night.
Nice. Last one, the weirdest one. I always say that. So dead or alive, real or imaginary, doesn't matter if it's a character from a book or a character from a movie or a developer or a colleague or family member. Now, I don't believe in gurus, and I think gurus is a very strange thing, but a personage that when you feel down in your life or you're stuck, let's say, you think of them and it kind of helps you to progress in the place that you're stuck. Again, it could be a real character, could be somebody you know personally, could be the other developer that you look up to. But again, not necessarily looking up to that person. It's just somebody who helps you to get through hard times in life, whether they're real or in your head.
Yeah, I think to me, really my backstop is family, right? Like always has been. My at first my parents and now my wife more so. Um, but yeah, like whenever things stop going north, start going south, there's always something you can fall back to. I think it gives that soul relief, you talk about or feel about. That's what I think my family is to me. Like I can do all the crazy things and the betterment for world or whatever, ideas I have I want to do and work on. Some of them are failures, some of them are successes, and it's going to be in the future as well, right? There's never foolproof thing. But I always have them to fall back to. So that's the one thing I think to me that matters. um yeah, it's not really a person or anything like that, but more so just the family that I have, the backing that I have. That's very important to me. Always has been.
Thanks for that honest answer. Mohammed, I want to finish. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for all your answers. Please don't hang up, by the way, just yet. This is going to be just a goodbye for the listeners. For the listeners out there, thank you. Thank you for listening, and see you guys next week. Thanks, Mohammed.
Thanks.
Bye.
This content was created by the Citizen Web3 Validator. If you enjoyed it, please support us by delegating on citizenweb3.com/staking and help us create more educational content.